Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. It's so nice to be here with you today. Today, we're going to have a conversation about timing, procrastination, and putting yourself out there. Because whether you are in the pocket of love or if you are in the pocket of creativity, these things matter and they often overlap. I'm going to be speaking to it in terms of creativity because that is the season that I'm in. So you're going to hear a lot more conversations centered around creativity and following that thread, especially as a woman in her mid 40s. And I obviously live my life in a very unconventional way. But I do notice this trend with women who cross into that 40 threshold and their life, if it hasn't been theirs yet, the 40th portal and that threshold, that initiation is going to do its very fucking best to initiate you back into right relationship with yourself and what you are truly here to create, and really direct you in a way where your life becomes your own again. You're not living for a partner or children or family or a career that doesn't give two shits about you. You're living for yourself. You're living for the thing that makes you come alive. And I don't know if this is true for men as well when they cross the 40th portal. I'll leave that to them to have those conversations with each other. But I do know for women that this is a very important thing that we talk about, because oftentimes, the conversation about turning 40 and up, it focuses on like withering and becoming all shriveled up and like an old woman, when really the reality is we become much more vibrant, much more alive, much more unfuckable with, because we are now making our lives about us. Maybe sometimes for the first time ever, following those threads of what it feels like to be inspired, what it feels like to be turned on, what it feels like to really pour your heart into work and creations that serve a much deeper purpose. So if you're on that trajectory, you're in good company. And also, if you're not in that pocket, don't worry, this will also be very valuable for you, because every human being comes up against these spaces of, timing and procrastination and all the shit that gets in the way of really putting ourselves out there. And the thing that I want to start with is timing is a real thing. And just because we have an idea of when things should happen or what things should happen, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the thing that is going to happen. And I think the law of attraction, superficial spirituality crowd has really done a number on the collective psyche when, people are like, well, if I want it, I get it, which I get because I largely think in a very similar fashion. But then we also have to hold the flip side of, just because I want something to happen doesn't mean that it will. And if it doesn't happen, what's my frame on that? Am I going to frame it in a way that disempowers me and takes me further away from myself and further away from my creativity and my courage? Or am I going to frame it in a way that serves my creativity and it serves my courage to keep creating, to keep showing up for life, even if life isn't going the way that I imagined it would? Because we all have seasons like that. We all have relationships like that. We all have opportunities like that. We all have jobs like that. where we thought it was going to be a certain way or it was going to go in a certain direction, and then it just doesn't. And sometimes that is the element of timing at play. This can be very true in relationships. But you want to be careful that if it is a timing issue in a relationship, that doesn't mean that you put your life on hold until the timing aligns. That's actually one of the best ways to stall it from actually aligning, because you actually stop living your life for you. And so if there is ever a relational issue where you're like, okay, I feel like there's something really significant here and we just can't get the timing right, okay, give it up. And like when I say give it up, I mean give it up to the universe, give it up to God, give it up to source, and be like, all right, you obviously know better than I do, and I'm going to let that be. And I'm going to go and walk this path that feels most alive for me, trusting that if this person is meant to come back around, or if we're meant to meet each other in another time, another place, that we will. But I'm not going to sit on the sidelines waiting and hoping and praying that this turns around and we somehow get our happily ever after, because that is a surefire way to really kill off any expanded potentiality relationally, but also on the creative side of things. Because if you're sitting around waiting, hoping, and like really spending a lot of your creative energy in the direction of, I need to manifest this person, I need to manifest this person, that's a real big misuse of your creative energy. It really is. Because when something is true, we don't need to force it. We don't need to apply like all of this energy to like maneuver it into where we want it to be. That's just not what happens when you're in the pocket of alignment. When you're in the pocket of alignment, there's mutual agreement that there's something special here, and let's invest into it. Let's create a container. Let's invest. Let's explore. Let's see what happens. But there's a real big difference between that and forcing an agenda. And so when we're having a conversation about timing, it's really important to understand that not everything is going to work out the way that you think or the way that you plan. Sometimes it's not even going to work out at all. And that's part of the process. That's part of the initiation into yourself. You know, who do you become when things don't go your way? Who do you become when life doesn't work out in your favor? That's where you really get to see what you're made of. Whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in life, whether it's in a creative pursuit. And I know it can be disheartening, you know, when things don't work out, and we can use that as evidence that maybe we shouldn't try, or maybe we should quit. And that's also not something I recommend you like hooking into. Because if you have a calling, especially if you're a creative, you need to create. You were created to create. And sometimes our egoic ideas of what should happen with those creations causes some interference. So if we think that we are meant to be rich and famous, and yet we don't put ourselves out there, or we put ourselves out there one time and it didn't work out, chances are the truth of your desire is not quite the same as that egoic desire to be rich and famous. But the true desire is to be a creative, is to create. And one of the things that stops us from being in that pocket of creation is procrastination, right? So we kind of sit on our hands and we're like, okay, I'm not going to take action today, but it'll all work out. And As a creative, you have to be in the pocket of tending to your creative faculties, really honing in on your skills, really refining your craft. That takes time, that takes practice, that takes devotion. It takes showing up even when life isn't kind of bringing you the accolades or the results that you think it should. And it's a really powerful question to sit with, like, why do I think that I am owed that level of success? And why do I think that that is the trajectory for me? And is that true? Or am I attempting to compensate for something? That's what I like to call compensatory desire in my line of work. You have true desire, and then you have the compensatory desire. Those are the ones that really feed the ego, or we get into a relationship for the wrong reasons, or we take a contract because we care about our image more than we care about the truth. And all of those experiences will be initiations of some sort, and they will also help you refine down into the truth of your desire. And when we're in right relationship with the truth of our desire, it's so much easier to trust the timing of our lives. And trusting the timing of your life isn't about being a passive participant. Trusting the timing of your life has everything to do with freeing up the mental load. Because when you think that things are happening, or maybe that things aren't happening and they should be happening, all of that shoulding on yourself is burning mental energy, and then it activates the emotional channel and it starts burning emotional fuel, and all of that ends up depleting your tank. And when the tank is depleted, that's when we can fall into, like, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I should just quit, maybe this isn't worth it, like maybe it's not for me. Or maybe it is for you and it's just happening in a different capacity than you originally thought. You know, when I first was exploring music, and I had been singing since I was very, very little. I had my first solo when I was 5 years old. And I was in performance groups and performance choirs. I was in school choir. I was in church choir. I was in a performance choir. Like, I had a lot of different pathways of performance and creativity and expression for my voice. And I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I am fairly certain that it was between 10 and 12 years old. I entered this contest called the Sing with Shania contest. So any country lovers out there, you know Shania Twain. Even if you don't like country, you probably know who Shania Twain is. This was in the 90s, and it was this contest to open for her and like sing with Shania. And so I made it through the contest, and it was the finals, and there was a person who went before me, and they fucked it up so bad. Like, I don't know what melody they were singing, but it wasn't the song that we were supposed to be singing. And I couldn't get their melody out of my head. And this is in the 90s, so we didn't have iPhones where you could just pop in your earbuds and listen to the song and like familiarize yourself with the actual melody. Like, I couldn't access it. And I went up and I did as best as I could have done. But like when I hit that chorus, their melody was still infiltrated in my psyche. And I did not land it the way that I had been landing it throughout the entire contest. And I ended up coming in second for the contest, which meant if the girl who won got sick or forfeited or anything happened, then I would get to take that place. That didn't happen. And it also, I don't know if it was me being young and just not being jaded by life yet, but there wasn't a spot in me that was like, oh, I didn't come in first, so I guess I should just quit. There was a spot in me that was like, well, I fucked it up. Like, I didn't sing it correctly. And if I had sung it correctly, maybe the outcome would have been different. But this is what happened. And being in right relationship with reality was one of the things that I swear kept me on the trajectory of music and allowed me to keep meeting it at different stages of my journey. But I also see this thread of timing at play, because if that had happened, it would have changed the trajectory of my relationship with music. It might have thrown me into the music industry as a child, as a very impressionable adolescent. And I think all of us are aware enough to know the kind of shady shit that goes down in the music and entertainment industry, especially when children are involved. And so in many ways, like now looking back, I'm like, God, that was protection. That was serious divine protection at play. And it didn't mean that I wasn't supposed to have a relationship with music or that music wasn't supposed to be part of my life. It just meant that I was going to explore it on a different path. And I'm honestly so grateful that that's how it happened, because had I gone into the music industry that early, I didn't know myself. I had no idea what I wanted to say. And so I would have been programmed to sing the songs that the label wanted me to sing and perform the way that the label wanted me to perform. And that is a surefire way to lose yourself or to not even develop a self in the first place, because you're being told who to be in order to get the accolades, get the bookings, get the sales. And it's like, that is such a pivotal time for any young human. And there are a lot of initiations that are happening at that point in time, which is why adolescence is so fucking hard. And when you get thrown into a world where you can't actually discover who you are, and instead you're being told who you are, that does not lend to really authentic art. This is why you see a lot of artists who begin in one particular genre completely pivot to another when they have finally found themselves, and maybe when they're out of their initial contracts. Because they know this is the actual expression that is true for me, that I never got to explore. And so for me, I got to walk this path of understanding myself first and then coming back to music. And I dabbled, and I had, a 4-year window in my 20s where I was in a band and we were writing music. The songs were ridiculous, if I'm honest. Like, they made no lyrical sense. But I think if you're not a little cringed out or embarrassed by the first, pieces of art that you create, you're probably not giving it your all. Like at the time, those songs felt so true to me. And now I look back 20 years later and I'm like, oh my God. Oh, wow. Bless all of my friends and family for being such good sports about it. And being like, these are amazing. And they had some good bones, but I hadn't found my voice yet. I didn't know who I was at 25. I'm barely starting to put the pieces together at 44. But my 30s were a huge initiation portal, going through a breakup where there was a lot of infidelity. That'll get you. And then really stepping out on my own business-wise and being on that trajectory for the last 10 years. And then coming back to music around the same time and continuing to write music that was meaningful, and then putting myself in the position of, pretty high level mentorship in the world of songwriting and music. And that was the turning point for me where I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I need to actually write the thing that's really true, really alive for me. And so one could look at my path and be like, oh, you're procrastinating, you're dragging your ass, you're not doing the thing. But really, when I look back on it, I'm like, this was all orchestrated in such a way for me to find and locate my voice and be able to bring a thread of self-expression through that otherwise would have been a little compromised. It wouldn't have been the true thing. And we have to go through this trial and error of like creating things, and then we look at them and we're like, is that the true thing? If not, we refine it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And then eventually we land on where we want to land. And this is why you're going to see me make this pivot towards creativity. We're still going to talk about love, but in the context of really enhancing your creativity. Because every single woman that I've had the honor and privilege of working with for the last 17 years, when she does this deeper alchemical work, she inevitably comes back into right relationship with her creative essence. Every single woman that I've worked with is a creative. Most of them are artists. And they're able to come back home to the heart of their creations and the heart of their creativity through the work that we've done. And now I'm stepping into a whole new chapter where I'm writing a lot and writing books. And don't worry, I haven't abandoned my book, but I have made some pretty big decisions with it that mean it's going to come out a little bit later than I anticipated. But it is coming, and being in this world of writing, and whether it's writing music or writing books, is really brought me back to life. And so I refuse to kind of see the timing of my life as anything other than deeply sacred, because it's landed me here. And even in those seasons where it was fogged out and muddy and energetically confusing, even in those moments, I'm like, there's something bigger happening here. If I can't see through the fog, I'm being rearranged. Something, like there's a reason why I can't see right now. And so in those moments, I just tend to, what I can see, like one step in front of me. That's all I can do. And, when it comes to putting our work out in the world, it's this fine balance between procrastination and then using the frame of timing to really cloak what you're doing as procrastination. It's procrastination if you know that you have this thing to give to the world and you're not giving it to the world. It's divine timing if you're working on it and you're interacting and you're engaging with it every single day, and you're just following the thread of like next step, next step, next step, next step. And then finally you get to the next step, which is to put it out in the world. And when we are afraid of being rejected, when we are afraid that it won't be well received, that can really stop us from putting ourselves out there. But it's only in putting yourselves out there that you will find what you're made of. You'll find out what your art is made of. You'll actually be steered and directed to where you're meant to end up. You know, you could start off as a painter and be putting all of your paintings out there and then realize, actually, I have this crazy passion for pottery. I don't know why I was painting. Like that's a part of my expression, but actually what brings me really to life is pottery. Or maybe you start as a writer, and through that process, you really uncover a passion for creating food, and you become a food artist, a chef. Like that's where you come most alive. And it's only through putting your creative expression out there that you actually get to figure out what the truest expression for you actually is. And it also allows you to move with the current of time and energy and growth and expansion, because as you grow and shift and change, so might your expression. So might the things that you actually find pleasurable and that really bring you to life. You know, as a lifelong performer, like what brought me to life in my adolescence and like 20s and even like the start of my 30s was being on stage. I fucking loved it. Like, put me on a stage, give me a mic, let me sing and dance. I'm a happy, happy woman. And I don't feel the same way anymore. I did a dance class like last year, and I was on stage, and it did nothing for me. Like, I'm proud of myself for doing it, but it didn't feed me the way that it once did. And then I hit pen to paper. You know, I'm working on my book. I'm working on writing. I am in the studio writing music, and that energizes me. That brings me to life. And it's a different season of my life. And this is the season of book writing. This is the season of blogging. This is the season of writing songs that maybe will be for me, but most likely will be for somebody else. And that actually feels most aligned and congruent with who I've become and what I want for myself in my life. The style of day I want to have, the style of week I want to have, the style of a year or day to day that I want to have. And so when you follow that creative impulse, that creative thread, and allow timing to work its magic, and then we really are so fucking honest with ourselves about like procrastination and essentially holding our creations hostage, because that's what procrastination is. You're holding your magic hostage. You are literally ripping someone off from the healing, the inspiration, or the permission that your expression and having it be out in the world would give. And I personally think that we are all interconnected, that we're always, you know, playing different parts and different roles for each other. And, you know, I think of the times when I'm walking down the street and I overhear a conversation, and just the combination of words that I overhear is the exact medicine that I need and it unlocks something in me. Or the amount of times I pick up a book and I just flip to a random page and it's exactly what I needed to hear. Or I put on a song and like the way that it alchemizes in my body, like opens up a channel of emotion that it was stuck. I couldn't access, and every single form of art, every single form of creativity has that medicinal possibility to it. And if you were here inside of my community and you were listening to this conversation, the things that you have to create have medicine. They have impact. They matter. Even if it's not your best work, it doesn't need to be your best work. It just needs to be your authentic work. It just needs to be an extension of your heart, an extension of the truth of who you are in that moment in time. And that work is either going to find its way to whoever it's meant to find its way to, or the process of you like going for it and putting it yourself out there is going to be witnessed by someone, and that becomes the permission slip that they need in order to get on their own trajectory. And so when you procrastinate, when you keep your creativity hostage, you rob other people of those very intentional, like sparking moments where you may have had a cosmic agreement to bring that out into the world so that they could cross paths with it in the exact moment that they do. And so when we hold it hostage, that's when life starts to feel stagnant. That's when things can stall out because we're interrupting the actual flow of magic, possibility, interconnectedness. And so if that is not the impact that you want to have, which you probably do want to have a really good impact on the world. You probably do want to inspire people. You probably do want to make creations that make a difference. And if that's the case, then you've got to be connected to the deeper threads, the bigger threads at play that allow you to get out of your own way, to get over yourself. Because procrastination is putting yourself above the actual medicine of the creation, like your feelings of inferiority or your feelings of fear or your feelings of rejection are more important than the medicine. That's what's happening when you're procrastinating. Not a vibe. Not a vibe, especially when you are here to weave more beauty, to weave more possibility, to weave more life into the global tapestry. Like you are here for a reason, and you are listening to this for a reason, and you have that creative calling in you for a reason. And I just hope that you trust it, and you trust yourself to follow it. You trust yourself to put yourself in the game and really let the magic of your creativity weave you back to life. Trust the timing of it. Trust that if you feel that call to write the book or write the album or, paint a collection and get it in a gallery, or start your restaurant and weave your creativity in there, or, choreograph a Broadway musical. I don't know. I don't know what your calling is. I just know that you have one, and it's creative. And if you didn't have a creative calling, you never would be called to personal development. You never would be called to relational development. Because these two aspects, when you kind of dial in the personal development and the relational skills and the emotional alchemy, all of that serves your art. It allows you to go deeper and create things that are truer, that are more authentic, that have a more potent energy signature to them, so that there's like a big transfer of medicine, of magic, of possibility, of permission that comes through what you create. And I just hope that you love yourself enough to put yourself out there, to get out of your own way, to see your creations and see your expression and see your creativity as the divine extension that it is. And I hope that you trust yourself in the timing of your life. There's a reason why a lot of extraordinary artists kind of come into their own after their 40s. It's not always the case, but there's a lot of that. And I think it has to do with the fact by the time you cross that threshold, you pretty much know who the fuck you are. Like, you're unfuckable with in a lot of ways, because you've gone through a lot of initiations that have prepared you to hold the truth of who you are and to show up powerfully inside of that in the world, regardless of whether people like it or not. And so when you create art from that place, that art has medicine. That art is necessary. We need more of that. It's rich. It's got this energy to it that you can't quite name, but you can deeply feel. And so my wish is that you really allow yourself to follow that trajectory of your life, trust the timing of it, and then call yourself out on your bullshit. Like, seriously. Like, don't wait for someone else to call you out on it. Call yourself out on it. When you're procrastinating, handle it. And if you can't get through it on your own, that's when you hire someone to get in there and help you pressure wash, clean out whatever's in the way, metabolize whatever is in the way, so that you can get back into the pocket of creating. And you can bring the thing that you are here to bring to the finish line. And on that note, we're going to wrap it there, because that's a lot to sit with. That's a lot to digest. And if you are in that pocket of, you know, that you have a book to write, you know, you have a album to write, you know, you have a creative project that you want to bring to life, I want you to reach out. I want you to send me your discovery form, because I have a new offering where I'm working specifically with authors and musicians and creatives who have a project that they want to cross the finish line. It's a 9-month container, 1-to-1. So we're getting in there. There's no hiding. And we're going to take your idea from the form of an idea and bring it through into the creation, and then cross the finish line with it. And I'm going to be prioritizing authors and writers who have a book that's in them. But if you are a musician or if you are an artist, I'm obviously going to consider it as well. So we will have a little conversation. We will have a little interview to make sure that it's a fit. And if you are an author, if you are a writer, if you're like, I have a book in me and I've just been too afraid to get started, that procrastination has been kicking your ass, and you are ready to actually do what it takes to cross that finish line, I want to hear from you, because I want to help you steward that process. I know what it takes to take an idea that's just in the form of an idea and bring it into a project that exists in the world. I do this over and over and over again. People who've watched me for many, many years, this is the constant thing that they say about me. Like, I'm just so in awe of the way in which you create. Like, you take an idea and you don't just talk about it, you make it happen. You build it into form. You bring it into the world. It is a incredibly strong suit of mine. And I also have the emotional and relational and spiritual and somatic backing to help you maneuver through all of the different junctures of that process. And it is a 9-month process to take it from start to finish. If we can grow a human in 9 months, we can bring your book to life. We can bring your project to life and have it be out in the world. So if that is something that feels like a call, like your heart feels the call, your body feels the call, reach out. Send me your discovery form. I'll link it in the show notes, or you can ping me on Instagram. Find me, get a hold of me, and we will talk and see if it's a good fit for you to step into this container with me. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, your evening, wherever you are in space and time. And I really hope that you listen to that call of your creative heart and you let yourself bring your gifts and your creations fully out into the world. And if you've been procrastinating, cut it out. Remember what that's all about. You're withholding your magic that is meant for someone. It's not meant for you. Like, yes, you will be nourished by your creations, of course. Every single song I've ever written, every single piece of writing I've put out into the world, my book, all of it supports me, of course, but it's not for me in that sense. I know that those words are meant to activate, to inspire, to sometimes trigger, to heal, and all of that is part of someone's path. And I am creating more energetic interference if I do not put that out in the world. And that's just not what I'm committed to. And it's really important for you to get really honest with yourself about what you're committed to, why you want to do what you want to do, and why your creative expression matters. Okay? So sit with that, digest it. If you are ready to take the leap and bring your project to life, especially if you've got a book in you, let's talk. I love you, friends. I'll talk to you soon.